We continue to battle with rationality, it seems. Um, really big time irrationality. Here's a quote from an Amazon review of Michael Behe's book, Darwin's Black Box, which asserts that evolution cannot be correct because of the sheer complexity of the natural world. A dangerous call to throw one's arms up and say, and give up, sacrificing one's power of reason to the supernatural because the answer is just too tough. I think any God would want us to keep searching for answers to the puzzle he or she has put in front of us. Within the biochemistry of living cells, he argues life is irreducibly complex. This is the last black box to be opened, the end of the road for science. Faced with complexity at this level, Behe suggests that it can only be the product of intelligent design. I feel it's dangerous to abandon reason and take the leap to believe whatever we want to. When reason is gone, then everybody is right, because no one is at the helm of reason. When reason is gone from the equation, we give the Jim Joneses and the Waco people carte blanche to create their own irrational systems, which lead in the long run to destructiveness of the human race. I think that any good God would want us to embrace reason with all our heart, soul, and humility. Dawkins argues that religion is the ultimate arrogance, that we are saved, but someone who disagrees will suffer the infinite fires of hell. What about mentally handicapped people? Are they damned to hell if they don't follow the rules exactly? The religiously, politically correct rules to the nth degree? Something to consider. These questions just seem to be hanging out there. Just hanging out there. And are not being addressed by the pious crowd. The rigidity of thought caused by a lack of reasoning ability in the brains of those who cling to fundamentalism is dangerous for the future of the world, in my opinion. Somebody's got to say it. How many different ways can I say that? Religion can cause people to be comforted to a great degree, but ultimately it is the people who are doing the comforting in a humane and reasonable fashion. Behe's assertions seem to me to be implying, they do really imply quite a bit, implying that we need to throw natural selection out of the window. And if he contends that, as he contends, that some intelligent aliens started Earth as sort of an experimental colony, then how do you explain who created the aliens? So it just goes on and on and on with the chain. There's the infinite pattern of questions that evolve out of Behe's direction here, pardon the expression. Just saying, okay, there was a creator, and that's it, gives power to those unreasonable folks who will say, see, I told you so, we're right all along. To ask questions is all we can do with our brains, which are the most evolved form of life on the planet. Let's use our brain's most highly evolved functions instead of going back to pacify more primitive regions associated with faith. I have more doubt about Behe's claims. I have a lot more doubt about the claims when I hear more information. When I hear about his university he teaches, the university he teaches at Lehigh, apparently. Lehighg, at Lehigh, putting a disclaimer on Behe's website even. They put a disclaimer on there saying, while we respect Professor Behe's right to profess his views, they are his alone and are in no way endorsed by the department. It is our collective position that intelligent design has no basis in science, has not been tested experimentally, and should not be regarded as scientific. Richard Dawkins says of Behe, he is a straightforward creationist. That's the first thing he says. A straightforward creationist. What he has done is to take a standard argument which dates back to the 19th century, the argument of irreducible complexity, the argument that there are no certain organs, certain systems in which all the bits have to be together or the whole system won't work, like the eye. Darwin answered this point by point, piece by piece, but maybe he shouldn't have bothered. Maybe what he should have said, maybe you're too thick to think of a reason why the eye could come about by gradual steps, but perhaps you should go away and think a bit harder. With science, there's a humility about the ultimate and complex questions. Without science, there's often arrogance. There's often arrogance about those questions. Another professor talks about Behe's assertions, more of the assertions that he makes in his book. Professor Behe's concept of irreducible complexity depends on ignoring ways in which evolution is known to occur. Although Professor Behe is adamant in his definition of irreducible complexity when he says a precursor missing a part is by definition non-functional, what he obviously means is that it will not function in the same way the system functions when all the parts are present. For example, the case of a bacterial flagellum, removal of a part may prevent it from acting as a rotary motor. However, Professor Behe excludes, by definition, the possibility that a precursor to the bacterial flagellum functioned not as a rotary motor, but in some other way, for example, as a secretory system. Going down the road of unreason certainly is a dangerous path. I'm finding reviews of Dawkins' book, The God Delusion, and they're quite interesting when you delve into these reviews. I find the reviews are very interesting, very revealing about the reason and non-reason people. A large portion of the religious reviewers of this book have obviously never read it. They just take shots, as they have restated objections to his arguments, which he deals with in a far more elegant manner than I could ever do. I respect your right to hold religious beliefs, but your arguments have been dealt with by Dawkins, yet you can still raise them apparently with no knowledge of any Dawkins arguments. Please read the work before attacking him for his beliefs. Please raise intelligent points. Don't simply spout faulty arguments. He has already dealt with, Dawkins says. He says, I am hostile to fundamentalist religion. Please read the work before attacking him for his beliefs. Please raise intelligent points. Do not simply spout the faulty arguments he has already dealt with, Dawkins says. I am hostile to fundamentalist religion because it actively debauches the scientific enterprise. It teaches us not to change our minds, not to want to know exciting things that are available to be known. It subverts science and saps the intellect. Hey, guess what? You cannot fight reason with unreason. It's that simple. You cannot fight reason with unreason. That's the crucial point there. That is the whole ball of wax, pardon the expression. You cannot fight reason with unreason. It will lose every time. You cannot shake your Bible at me and expect me to say it is just because it is, or that a Christian God is better than any other God. How can you rationally expect me to believe that? It will lose every time. You cannot just shake your Bible at me and expect me to believe. Just believe, and everything will be all right. I think people who criticize Dawkins' book don't like it because they have to really think through things. They really have to think when they read it. It's far from an easy read, but infinitely rewarding in my opinion. So that, I don't think that people they're set in their ways. They don't want to rethink things. That's no fun at all, to rethink things. They have to really think it through when they read it. It's far from easy, but infinitely rewarding. I hear things like, well, give up all your control and God will be in the driver's seat. That's kind of a scary proposition, that we can let go of the steering wheel. What if we crash? My father, who is a psychiatrist, counseled a woman who got in a car accident because she let God take the wheel. She let God take the wheel, and she ended up in the ditch. A father of an autistic son in Fond du Lac didn't worry too much when his son wandered off down a busy street thinking God would take care of it, and if he died, it was just God's will. Comfortable thought for him, perhaps, but not too comfortable for the son who gets run over by a car. Not very logical or rational. This man's comment bothered me. Taking the leap of faith is difficult, very, very difficult. And I'm not so certain I want to attempt that leap of faith. I want to cling to reason. That's the only thing I have. People who reason and use logic a lot are not cold-hearted. I think that's a common misconception as well, that if you're an anti-theist, you're a cold-hearted person. It's not necessarily true. I think this is a common misconception, just like the geek, the nerd, someone with Asperger's syndrome is ostracized for behavior not conforming to the norm. The real conscientious thought and discussion about religion and its role in society is tossed off by adversaries as inappropriate and not what people want to talk about. So if atheism becomes a stereotype, just much like the if you've seen that show The Big Bang Theory, just like the show gets its laughs over stereotypes of nerds, which is way off, but people, they see it as a stereotype and yep, that's just them. And that's the same thing that most religious people, I think of atheists, is it's just them, okay? So they're special, they're a little weird, let's keep them away. Keep them far away and we're fine. So it's the stereotyping of each other and not getting to know each other, which is the biggest problem here. So that is end of part 6 as we trudge on through the I'm Still Searching essay.